I packed my bags slowly like I was afraid the moment might disappear if I moved too fast. In my head this trip meant family. It meant being missed. It meant the holidays finally meaning something again. For once my dad was the one who called me. Not to ask for help. Not to remind me of something I owed. Just to say, come home for the holidays. He paid for the ticket himself. No hesitation. No arguments. That alone felt like proof that things had changed. I replayed his words during the flight. We just want you home. I believed them. I imagined warm conversations. Late nights. A seat at the table that wasn't temporary. Thought this was about love. About reconnecting. About finally being wanted without a reason. I didn't know that sentence came with conditions. When my dad called I almost didn't answer. We weren't the kind of family that talked just to talk. So when I saw his name on my phone my first thought was that something was wrong. But his voice wasn't rushed. It wasn't sharp. Sounded softer than I remembered. He asked how I was doing. Not the polite version. The real kind. He asked about my job, how long my hours were, whether I was sleeping enough. He even noticed how tired I sounded. No one had said that to me in a long time. There was a pause on the line like he was choosing his words carefully. Then he said it. The words I hadn't heard in years. Come home for the holidays. For a moment I didn't know what to say. Home didn't feel like a place I was invited to anymore. It felt like something I had outgrown. Or been quietly pushed out of. Before I could answer he kept talking. He said it would be good for all of us. That the house felt empty. That family should be together during the holidays. Then he told me he had already looked at flights. A few seconds later my phone buzzed with the booking confirmation. He booked the ticket before I could even say yes. I stared at the screen reading my name over and over like it might disappear. Part of me felt shocked. Another part felt relieved. I told myself this wasn't just a trip. It was an invitation. A sign that things were changing. I told myself he wouldn't spend money like that unless it mattered. Unless I mattered. For the first time in a long while I felt included. Like I wasn't an afterthought. Like someone had finally chosen me without being asked. That night I started planning in my head. What I would wear. What I would say. How I would act if things felt awkward at first. I told myself to keep an open heart. To not bring old pain into a new moment. Most of all, I told myself this meant I still had a place there. That I still mattered. When I landed, the airport felt louder than I expected. Families were hugging. Kids were running toward open arms. I stood there with my bag, scanning the crowd, waiting to feel that same rush. My dad waved when he saw me. The hug was quick. Not cold, just unfinished. Like something he didn't want to linger in. The drive home was quiet. He asked about the flight, the weather, small things that filled space but not meaning. I answered, trying to sound normal, trying not to overthink it. When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly the same. Same paint. Same windows. Same front door. But something felt off the moment I stepped inside. There were decorations, but they felt rushed. No sign that anyone had been preparing for me specifically. No favorite snacks. No extra coat by the door. Just the house already in motion without me. I stood there for a second, unsure where to put my bag. No one noticed. My dad was already walking ahead, talking about errands he needed to run. Inside, everyone was busy. Conversations didn't pause. No one asked how the trip really was. It felt like I had arrived late to a story that was already halfway through. I told myself not to read into it. People get busy. Holidays are chaotic. But the longer I stood there, the smaller I felt. My room wasn't really a room anymore. It had been turned into storage. Boxes stacked where my bed used to be. I was told I could sleep on the couch. He said it casually, like it was no big deal. Like this had always been the plan. I nodded, even though something tightened in my chest. That night, as I unpacked my bag on the floor, I realized no one had asked how long I was staying. No one had talked about plans together. No dinners, no traditions, no moments saved for later. I had come home thinking I was returning to a place that remembered me. But standing there, I felt like a guest who hadn't been expected. The house hadn't been waiting for me. It had simply made space, temporarily. That evening, after things finally slowed down, my dad asked me to sit with him at the table. The way he said it sounded serious, like there was something important he needed to discuss. I felt a small spark of hope. Maybe this was the moment. The real conversation. The reason he brought me home. He didn't look at me right away. He straightened a stack of papers, cleared his throat, and then smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was practical. He said they had been planning something special for a while. A break. A chance to relax after a long year. Then he said it casually like it was already agreed on. We're going away for a few days. I nodded slowly, waiting for the rest. He didn't stop there. You'll stay here with the kids. The words didn't hit me all at once. They settled slowly, heavy and uncomfortable. I waited for him to laugh. To say he was joking. He didn't. He explained how it would only be temporary. How everything was already arranged. How I was responsible and good with them. He said it like it was a compliment. I realized then that this was the plan all along. The ticket. The timing. The sudden concern about my life. None of it was accidental. I wasn't invited home to reconnect. I was brought back to fill a gap. I tried to speak but my voice felt small. I asked why they hadn't mentioned this before. He shrugged and said he didn't think it would be a problem. After all, I wasn't doing anything important, right? That part stayed with me. Not because he said it out loud but because the silence around it confirmed he believed it. I looked around the room at the house that no longer felt like mine. At the chair I was sitting in, already temporary. At the holiday decorations that suddenly felt staged. I nodded again. Not because I agreed. But because I didn't know how to say no yet. Inside something shifted. A quiet understanding settled in. This wasn't a visit. It was an assignment. The next morning the house felt different. Lighter. Quieter. Like everyone was already halfway gone. Suitcases appeared by the door. Sunglasses on the counter. A printed itinerary taped to the fridge. That's when it became real. This wasn't a last-minute plan. This wasn't spontaneous. Everything had been booked in advance. Hotels. Flights. Activities lined up day by day. They moved around the house with excitement, talking over each other, checking times, charging phones. No one asked if I was okay with any of it. They talked about beaches and views and how badly they needed this break. They joked about finally getting some peace. I stood there holding a grocery list they handed me, listening. Then the messages started. Group chats buzzing. Friends wishing them a great trip. Someone said, "So glad you're finally getting away." No one mentioned me. I noticed something else too. Their conversations were filled with details, except where I was involved. My role had already been decided. There was nothing to discuss. I wasn't part of the holiday plans. I was the reason they could leave. They explained routines to me like instructions. Bedtimes. Rules. Emergency numbers written down neatly as if this was a job. I nodded, memorizing everything even though my chest felt tight. That afternoon they left. The door closed behind them and the house went silent. No goodbye hug. No thank you. Just a quick reminder to lock up at night. I stood there for a moment, keys in my hand, listening to the quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel smaller. Later that night my phone buzzed. Photos. A hotel room with a view. A smiling selfie. A caption about much needed time away. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. That's when the truth finally settled in. I hadn't been flown home to be loved. I had been flown home to be useful. And those two things are not the same. The days blurred together after that. Morning, afternoon, night. Each one measured by someone else's needs. I woke up early to make breakfast. Cleaned up messes that weren't mine. Answered questions, solved arguments, broke up small fights before they became big ones. I told myself it was temporary. Just a few days. I could handle that. But the silence from them made it heavier. There were no calls asking how things were going. No check-ins. Just short messages with instructions. Make sure they finish their homework. Don't forget bedtime at 9. Let us know if anything serious happens. Nothing about how I was doing. At night, after everyone was asleep, I sat alone on the couch. The same couch I had been told to sleep on. The house felt bigger then. Too big. I scrolled through my phone and saw more pictures. Poolside drinks. Sunsets. Smiling faces. They looked free. I wondered if they remembered I was there. Or if the house felt lighter without me too. One afternoon one of the kids asked when they were coming back. I didn't know what to say. So I said soon. They asked if I was staying after. I paused before answering. I don't know, I said. And for the first time I realized that was the truth. I wasn't part of anyone's plan. Not before the trip. Not after it. I was filling space. Holding things together so someone else could enjoy their time away. That thought hurt more than the work. Because being tired is one thing. Being invisible is another. Each night I told myself not to cry. Not to make this bigger than it was. But somewhere between the quiet rooms and the glowing phone screen something started to change. I wasn't just exhausted. I was done. One night, after everyone was finally asleep, I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't scroll. I just sat there in the dark. The house was quiet in a way that felt honest. No noise to distract me. No one asking for anything. That's when the truth became clear. They didn't bring me home because they missed me. They brought me home because they needed me. The care in my dad's voice. The quick booking of the ticket. The timing of the trip. None of it was about love. It was about convenience. I thought about how easy it had been for them to leave. How natural it felt for them to hand everything to me without asking. And I realized something painful but freeing. If I disappeared again, nothing would really change for them. That was the moment I stopped trying to explain myself in my head. Stopped justifying their choices. I didn't need their approval to know my worth. I just needed to stop giving it away. When they came back, the house filled with noise again. Laughter. Stories. Sunburned smiles. I listened quietly while they talked about their trip. No one asked how it had been for me. That night I packed my bag. In the morning my dad looked surprised. Almost annoyed. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just said, "Next time be honest about why you want me home." Then I left. I left before the holidays ended. Not in the middle of an argument. Not after a fight. I left quietly. I wasn't angry anymore. That part had already passed. What I felt was clearer than anger. I was awake. For a long time I had confused being needed with being loved. I thought showing up meant I mattered. I thought saying yes would make me part of the family again. But love doesn't come with a checklist. It doesn't disappear the moment you stop being useful. Family isn't about who can hold things together the longest. It isn't about who sacrifices the most in silence. It's about who shows up when there's nothing to gain. Who stays even when it's inconvenient. Walking away felt heavy. But it also felt honest. I didn't come home to be useful. I came home to belong. And if someone only wants you when they need something, they don't really want you. They want what you provide. That was the lesson I carried with me.